starting to read through the latest CBA that we completed and mixed results, I guess, mixed feelings.
That's what a negotiation is.
Yeah.
A good negotiation is no one's satisfied. It's Miz went perfect.
But I think it's like my deal. Like I did the deal.
I would not be doing my job if I didn't ask you what points are people going crazy over.
I think they're upset about the aprons, the spending associated with certain levels of teams, obviously, and the financial implications of certain aprons, and obviously what can be taken away if you spend too much or trade for a player or whatever the case may be. But the deal is still being written up, so there's still some progress left, and the finalities to come out a little later.
Can you do a quick thing for me? Explanation. What is the not language, but can players own stakes within NBA franchises, or is that the NBA union actually owning that stake for all players in the league? How does that?
So we're going through the process now with legal. So it's still not technically finalized yet. There's obviously some things we have to sort through from a legality standpoint. But the way it was described to me was that two options, right? You'd be able to buy in through a fund. Obviously, the fund will be put together by the PA, where you would be able to have ownership in potential teams. There's already funds that exist,
exactly.
Apollo and other funds that exist.
Acho style
that
companies
you
like
can
that, yeah.
technically get into if you have an LLC or whatever the case may be. But I think looking at the structure of it, the biggest thing for us was figuring out ways to create generational wealth, figuring out ways to allow players to invest in things that are going to make money as opposed to things that are being brought to us that may not have been vetted properly. And generally speaking, when you're investing alongside billionaires and governors, the success rate is higher. And when you can obviously invest in the sport that you're helping build from the inside out, I think it just made sense. And I think the other part of it is being able to invest in other things outside of sports alongside owners. I think there was a situation where I think Draymond Green talked about it not being able to invest, him being a Michigan guy and going to Michigan State, not being able to invest in some things because of some governors that had a certain level of ownership that was definitely going to be lucrative. There's always situations like that with a lot of different players. There's a minority owner for the Golden State Warriors that's a Lehigh alum. So there's a lot of different situations in which a lot of us could be making more money or investing, having safe investments alongside governors that we weren't able to do in the past or weren't able to publicly do in the past.
That's right. The system is rigged, and we want in. The players want in. Make it work for the players for once. Hey, CJ, we've been talking about it, debating it all day. And I think it's games 3 in one series in the finals, historically, 80% success rate for the team that wins game 3 in the series. They win the series 80% of the time. So who is this more of a must-win for at Miami?
We talked about the term must-win is just it makes my stomach hurt because it's never really a must-win, and it always is at the same time. So I think in this case, it's Denver. And I only say that because Miami went and won on their home floor. It's like somebody coming in your refrigerator and drinking your orange juice and putting their mouth on it. Like, you don't want to see that happen, especially when you're the favorite, 8-point favorite in consecutive finals games, right? You're at home, you have a 15-point lead. Like, you're running away. Like, I low-key, walked away. I went and took a shower, came back, and, the score was close again. It was like the typical Miami. They always come back. But this is pressure, and I think it's pressure because they've already shown that they can beat you on your home floor, right? So now you got to go get one. And if you don't get the first one and you go down 2-1, and now you're looking like, is this like they beat us on our home floor. We didn't beat them on theirs. Now we got another one in Miami with 2 days in between games, I'm guessing. Miami Knights is calling you, right? And going back to Denver could be trouble because they've already shown that they can beat you there. And they beat you where Jimmy played a really good game, but it wasn't like Jimmy's best game, right? So one of those is coming. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, they can beat us when he doesn't play as good as he's capable of. They could beat us when, Kevin Love just gets 10 rebounds, hits a couple threes, but, misses some open shots. Duncan Robinson misses some open shots, and they still beat you. You start to think, you start to question,
Yeah.
CJ, see what I said earlier? Now you got an NBA player sitting right there with you, echoing the same things that I said this morning when he was asleep. So it's not like he heard what I said about if they beat them in Miami and then they got them again in game 4, that doubt starts to set in the Nuggets' mind about, well, wait a minute. We're now sitting at 2-1, and we got to play them in game 4. Mm-hmm. We in trouble. That doubt starts to sit in the minds there. So I was talking to them earlier about it, CJ. I was talking to him earlier about that because it's true. When you feel like you're the better team, and all of a sudden you look up and you down 2-1 and you still on the road with another game to play, you mess around and you lose that one going home, you're really in trouble.
Just staying for the record, it's the worst question in sports that's manufactured by the media. Who needs a game more? Who the hell? Like, both teams need the game.
Yeah, they do, but
more
who
than
needs
anybody.
it more? It's okay.
But it's not,
I'm with you, Jay. I actually think the Heat need it more.
How does more apply? Like, how does more apply? Because if
one team's at home, one team's on the road. One team's considered better, one team's considered worse.
If Denver wins, then things skew in their favor, right? They have home court advantage.
Sure. I think it's great for conversation, but in this case, I don't think this case is consistent across the board. I think even if Miami wins Game 3, I still think Denver win because they had the better player. And it's like the
say
Jokic
Jokic is the best player in the series?
Yes. Yeah.
Better than okay.
Yes.
This gets to the Miami plus-minus thing. Hembo had this stat. They are minus in the plus-minus as a team every quarter of the playoffs except for the fourth quarter. CJ, they're plus 90 in the fourth quarter throughout the playoffs. So I'm asking, in the moment of truth, who's the best player on the floor, Jokic or Jimmy Butler, in the moment of truth?
In the moment of truth, I'm going with Joker for 2 reasons. My eyes never lie. My eyes don't lie. And I think Spo says it all the time, untrained eyes. I think there's a lot of untrained eyes out there that are looking at stats, that are looking at all of these things, and are not taking into account Eric Spoelstra. Like, fourth quarter is Jimmy time. I get all of that. He hits big shots, but it's execution. It's rotations. It's who you're playing. He runs a zone. He runs a matchup zone. He mixes in his defenses. Great out-of-bounds timeouts. Great execution. Knows when to call timeouts. All those things matter, and that changes the game and momentum of a game. Now you just drop Joker in. Joker is unstoppable. He gets what he wants, does what he wants. He can beat you scoring. He can beat you passing. You always have to account for where he's at. And I think in this case, there's a reason why he's 2-time MVP. Probably could have been 3-time. They just didn't want to give it to him. He is the difference in where they could be down in the series and he can go get you 18 and a quarter or 20 and a quarter, and he can go get you 10 assists and a half with 0 turnovers. And I think that's why I say he's the better player. And
CJ McCollum and his trained eyes. My untrained eyes say Jimmy Butler all day. KJM, ESPN Radio.
In skill and the way they're playing right now than people think. And the home court is not going to be the most meaningful thing. I would not be surprised to see us 2-2 heading back to Denver and see what's going to happen here. Both these teams are capable of runs. They're both capable of coming from double digits back, and the so-called others for both teams, people make a much bigger deal out of it when Miami people, because so many of them are undrafted. But the three-point shot and turnovers often are big. In this series, it's huge. Miami, as well as they've played, they probably need to put like 110 or more on the board if they're going to beat Denver. Denver's just the best offensive team, I think, in the league. They're a balanced team, and they need some of those guys to play a lot better than they did in Game 2. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I think it's going to be a very good scoring game. I think people on both teams will step up. The three-point shooting will be good, and both these teams take good care of the ball. Denver's the best in the playoffs so far. They don't turn it over. They're smart teams. They're very good defensive teams. There's been a lot of long possessions where it's just good offense in the last 5 seconds beating good defense. So it's a very entertaining series as far as I'm concerned. Third quarter of the Game 2 was fantastic. The two teams going back and forth at each other. I think we're going to see more of that in Miami.
Coach, I want you to take about 5 seconds and think about this one. Who needs Game 3 more, the Nuggets or the Heat?
I don't think it's Game 3. It's going to be Game 4. Denver has to win one of the games in Miami. There's no question about that. But it's that the odd games don't always. It's the even games. When one team sticks their nose ahead, that's when the other one has to come back. So I think this one will set the table for Game 4.
My guy, PJ Carlesimo, joining us on ESPN2. ESPNU, actually, right now. Keyshawn, J. Will, Max. If I can get out, PJ. Take me inside for a second. If you were Michael Malone, PJ, and you saw the usage rate of Miami zone in the fourth quarter, which is pretty high, a high dosage, how would you attack that? Because obviously having the Joker in the middle of that zone seems like the first thing that you would think, but it hasn't really panned out. How would you attack that zone?
They've had good looks on that. The zone is working. What's working more was the fact that Miami put the ball in the basket in game 2, or got to the free throw line. Neither of which they did as well in game 1. And it allowed Eric Spoelstra to change up the defenses, to play man-to-man sometimes, to pick up full court with their pressure, just to take time off the clock, or sometimes to go back and play the straight zone. That more than the zone itself, they got good looks against the zone. Yeah, it's much more effective when they do get it in the middle, whether it's to Jokic, which is where they really want it, or at times to Jamal.